Jets fans, something important is happening between Geno Smith and Garrett Wilson, and it could completely change the New York Jets offense in 2026. We have heard plenty about Geno. We have heard plenty about Garrett, but now we're starting to see something that the Jets haven't had consistently enough in recent years. A quarterback and his number one receiver actively working together to understand how to beat defenses. And this isn't simply about throwing the football back and forth during practice. Garrett Wilson recently explained that he and Geno Smith are spending extra time together after practice, going over situations, discussing defensive looks, and figuring out how they can attack what opposing defenses are showing them. That is a huge detail, because Geno and Garrett aren't trying to simply memorize a playbook. They're trying to learn how to win against the defense. And if that connection continues developing, the Jets could have something very dangerous on their hands. Let's talk about it.
But before we get into it, if you're a die-hard Jets fan, make sure you're subscribed to Jetstream News. We're your go-to source for daily engaging content on all things. Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers this off-season by hitting that subscribe button now.
Here's something we need to remember. Garrett Wilson has already established himself as one of the most talented players on this Jets roster. But he's never had the luxury of playing multiple seasons with the same established quarterback and building that chemistry over time. Now, in 2026, Geno Smith arrives as the quarterback. And suddenly, Garrett has to learn an entirely different quarterback. Geno has to learn Garrett. They have to understand timing. They have to understand body language. They have to understand how defenses are going to try to take Garrett away. And that's why what Garrett said recently caught my attention. He explained that he and Geno are going back over plays after practice and discussing things they may have missed. They're talking about how defenses are guarding him. They're discussing what Geno is seeing. They're figuring out how they can attack those looks. That is exactly the kind of relationship you want between a quarterback and his number one receiver. And Garrett said something that I think is extremely important. The goal isn't simply, here's the play, let's run the play. The goal is, what is the defense giving us and how do we exploit it? That distinction matters, because great quarterback-receiver combinations eventually reach a point where they don't need everything to be perfect. They see the defense, they recognize the coverage, they communicate, and they make adjustments. That's how you turn a good offense into a dangerous offense. Imagine Geno comes to the line and sees a defense giving Garrett a particular look. Instead of simply running the play exactly as designed, Geno and Garrett already understand what they're looking for. They know where the weakness is. They know what adjustment they want, and they attack it. That's chemistry. And that's something that cannot be built overnight. We've already seen some encouraging signs during training camp. Geno has been finding Garrett during team periods and 7-on-7 work. Garrett has been getting opportunities downfield. And even when the connection hasn't been perfect, the important thing is that they're continuing to work through it. There have been missed opportunities. There have been throws that weren't completed. There have been situations where Garrett was open and Geno didn't connect. But that's exactly why these practices matter. You don't want those mistakes happening in week 1. You want them happening in August. You want Geno and Garrett walking off the field saying, "We missed that one. Why?" Then fixing it. Then seeing the same defensive look again and knowing exactly what to do. That's development. Let's talk about Garrett. Because this could be the season where we finally see what he can do with a quarterback who consistently gives him opportunities. Garrett has already shown elite ability. He can create separation. He can win at different levels of the field. He can make difficult catches. He can create after the catch. But having talent and consistently getting the football are two different things. The quarterback has to trust him, and the receiver has to trust the quarterback. That's why this relationship is so important. If Geno develops that trust with Garrett, we could see something special. Maybe Geno sees a coverage and knows Garrett is going to break a route in a particular spot. Maybe Garrett recognizes that Geno is under pressure and adjusts his route. Maybe they start making plays that aren't necessarily written perfectly in the playbook. Those are the moments that can change games. And let's not make this one-sided. Garrett needs Geno, but Geno needs Garrett too. A quarterback coming into a new offense needs a reliable target, someone he can trust on third down, someone he can throw to when the defense brings pressure, someone who can win one-on-one, someone who can turn a 5-yard completion into a 25-yard gain. Garrett can potentially be that player. And if Geno knows he can trust Garrett, that can make the entire offense better. It can affect how defenses call plays. It can create opportunities for Adonai Mitchell. It can create opportunities for the tight ends. It can open running lanes for Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. That's the ripple effect of having a legitimate #1 receiver. And then we have Frank Reich. This is another reason I'm interested in this offense. Reich has experience working with quarterbacks and designing an offense around what his players do well. The Jets don't need Geno to throw 45 times every game. They need an efficient offense. They need to stay ahead of the chains. They need explosive plays when they're available. And they need their best players involved. Garrett Wilson should absolutely be one of those players. If Reich can create favorable situations for Garrett and Geno can consistently recognize those opportunities, this offense could look completely different from what Jets fans have become accustomed to. Now, let's be realistic. I'm excited about this, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Geno and Garrett are already one of the best quarterback-receiver duos in the NFL. They haven't earned that yet. They're building it. That's the important part. They're learning each other. And that's why the extra work matters so much. Anybody can say, "We're building chemistry." It's another thing to actually stay after practice and study defensive looks together. That's the kind of work that eventually shows up on Sundays. That's what I want to see. Training camp is great. Joint practices are great. Preseason is great. But eventually, the Jets have to take the field in a real regular season game. And when Geno walks into Week 1, I want him to know exactly what Garrett wants against every major defensive look. I want Garrett to know where Geno is going with the football. I want them to have that unspoken understanding. Because if they do, the Jets' offense could become extremely difficult to defend. And here's the scary part for opposing defenses. They can't simply focus on Garrett, because now you have Adonai Mitchell. You have Breece Hall. You have Braylon Allen. You have Mason Taylor, and you have other young players fighting for opportunities. If Garrett becomes the player, defenses absolutely have to account for on every snap. Everybody else benefits. So, Jets fans, I think the Geno Smith and Garrett Wilson connection is one of the most important storylines to watch heading into the 2026 season. Not because we've already seen some incredible statistical explosion. We haven't. It's because we're seeing the foundation being built. Geno and Garrett are talking. They're studying. They're reviewing plays. They're discussing defensive coverage. They're figuring out how to exploit what opponents are showing them. And that's exactly how elite quarterback-receiver chemistry begins. The Jets don't need perfection in August. They need progress, and right now, we're seeing it. If Geno Smith can give Garrett Wilson consistent opportunities and Garrett can become the explosive weapon we know he can be, this Jets offense could be a completely different animal in 2026. So let me know what you think. Will Geno Smith and Garrett Wilson become one of the NFL's most dangerous quarterback-receiver combinations this season? Type yes in the comments if you believe this connection is going to explode in 2026. And if you're not convinced yet, tell me why. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more New York Jets news, training camp updates, rumors, and analysis. The connection is being built. Now we just have to see what happens when the games actually count. Let's go, Jets! Thanks for watching!